asked for it, so today I'm bringing you my fully functional Spider-Man PS4 Web Shooter built mostly from cardboard and paper. I made this web shooter using pretty simple materials so that you guys could easily make this at home yourselves. So no 3D printer, no power. I'd like to show you how to make impressive stuff at home using everyday shooter. I provided links in the description box below to all the materials I used for this project, and in addition I also created free downloadable templates which you can also find in the description box as well. And I numbered all of the template pieces in the order that they appear in this video, so they should be easy to follow. Well, now just sit back and enjoy this video as I show you how I made this web shooter. Alright, well first things first, I had to make the base of the web shooter, so for that I used some cereal box cardboard. And here I just lightly scored the cardboard with my knife so that I could get a nice clean bend along those cuts. At this point I gave this whole thing a coat of red spray paint, and the PS4 web shooter has a bit of a curve to it, so when I glue this front piece right here, it should help the web shooter keep its curved shape. Now I'm gonna make the barrel of the web shooter by rolling up a small paper tube and hardening it with super glue. On the end of that tube I glued a tiny cereal box ring that I made using a hole puncher, and you can just cut this out by hand if you don't have a hole puncher, but if you do have one it definitely comes in handy here. While that's drying we can go ahead and make this little detail piece right here, and I'm just gonna wrap this strip around the barrel like so. This piece right here is just going to give the barrel something to glue onto, so we can just slide the barrel onto the web shooter like this, and I'll secure it in place using some super glue and hot glue. Next, I'm going to make the locking mechanism. Now, I guarantee there's going to be a lot of you who are skipping through this video just to see how it shoots, right? You don't care about anything else, you just want to know how it shoots. Well, if that's you, here it is. This is the part you want to watch. So here we go. First, I'm going to make two tiny holes in this popsicle stick here, and I can use a thumbtack to kind of help with that. Now, once those two holes are in place, I'll just apply a bunch of super glue to strengthen this piece here, and I'll glue on these two tiny strips of cereal box cardboard along the edge of the popsicle stick like this to kind of make it into a rectangular box, as you can see right there. And again, more super glue to really strengthen this piece because we really need this piece to be strong. And for this locking mechanism we need a pen spring, but we don't need the whole length of the spring, so what I'll do is just take a pair of wire cutters and cut that down to the length that I want, which is about 2 millimeters when the spring is fully compressed. Okay, and now I'll take some fishing line and slot both ends of the string through those holes that we made earlier, and just pull that all the way through. After that, I can glue the fishing line to the popsicle stick like this, and since I need the popsicle stick to be flat on top, I'll just shave this part of the fishing line off. Now, what we gotta do is slot both ends of the fishing line through the spring, slide that spring all the way through, and then glue the spring to the popsicle stick right there. So I'm gonna slot the fishing line through that hole that we just made in the web shooter right there, and again just pull that string all the way through. And now you can see that when I tug on the fishing line, that popsicle stick lowers down, which is what's going to release the bullet, but more on that later. Make sure you add some glue to the bottom of the spring here. Next thing we need to do is roll up another paper tube, but this time even smaller. And what you want to do is slice this tube in half so that you end up with something that looks like this. And this piece is going to go behind the barrel right there. Now let's make the bullet, which is that thing that's going to shoot out of the web shooter and stick to metal objects. So what we need to do to this bullet is add a little notch in it so that it can get caught on that popsicle stick locking mechanism that we made earlier. So I just start by making a few simple measurements here, and then I can take a sharp knife and carve out a groove where those markings are. And this groove definitely needs to be rigid and strong, so I covered the whole thing in super glue. On the side closer to the notch, I glued a 5x3 neodymium magnet, then wrapped a thin strip of paper around it so that it won't fall off. On the other side, I wrapped a very thin strip of paper, and the reason we need that there is so that we can glue on this 8x3 neodymium magnet. In just a second, I'm going to glue on a 0.8 by 8 by 50 millimeter steel compression spring to the bullet, and the spring and magnets might be the only thing you'll have to order online if you make this web shooter. So if that's the case, feel free to check out the links in the description if you want to know where I got these. Alright, so now we're back to the locking mechanism, and basically how this works is the popsicle stick will get caught on the notch on the bullet, so to shoot you just have to pull on the fishing line, which will lower the popsicle stick down. Now I decided to add these small blocks of cardboard here, and the purpose of this is just to prevent the web cartridge from going past the point of those blocks. So now I'm going to cover the top with this black piece here, which I painted black in advance because it's just easier to paint it first, obviously. Now that we've made the functional part of the web shooter, we can go ahead and work on the details at this point. So I'll start with this really odd shaped piece here and bend and shape it as you see me doing right here. And you want to end up with something that looks like this. Then I painted that red, and now I'm going to take some small slips of paper and color them red with a marker. Now, you can paint them, but it's just faster to use a marker and you won't really notice the difference. So all I'm going to do is simply place those slips of paper behind this piece to cover up those little slit marks that we cut out. And it should look a little something like this. Once I was happy with how that piece turned out, I glued that whole thing to the top of the web shooter like so. Now I glued this tiny piece of cardboard right under that bridge there, and no need to paint that because the point of this white piece is to give this other red piece that you see right here something to stick to. And just a side note, I used glossy paper from an old magazine for this piece that you see here because it's a little bit shinier and thicker than normal paper, but if you don't have any glossy paper, regular paper will work just fine. And now comes the fun part, just adding more and more layers of details. Once the details were finished, I decided to make a web cartridge now, which is essentially a small little removable box that you can refill with string, and that box will basically just store all of your string inside it before it all shoots out. To make this web shooter wearable, I made a simple Velcro strap using a strip of black duct tape. Now, we still have all of this excess fishing line just sort of hanging out here, so what you need to do with that is tie a loop for your finger, and you want to kind of measure and test it first to see how big the loop should be. You don't want to make the loop too big or else you won't be able to tug on it hard enough, but you also don't want to make it too small or else you won't be able to move your finger around without shooting it. So you kind of just want to find a sweet spot right in the middle. For the web string, I decided to use some crochet thread this time, and once I cut the string down to the length that I wanted, I glued a 5x3 magnet to the string. And make sure that the magnet on the string is properly oriented, so you just want to make sure that it attracts to the back of the bullet. Finally, I made a really simple reloading tool using some bamboo sticks and a popsicle stick, and what this is going to do is just allow you to reload the string back into the web shooter. So to reload the string, you just want to start with the magnet side of the string on top, and then you want to wrap the string around the 2 bamboo sticks in a figure-8 motion, like so. Once all of that string is wrapped around the reloading stick, you can stuff all of that string down into the web cartridge. To insert the bullet into the barrel, you first have to pull on the fishing line to kind of unlock it and lower that popsicle stick down so that it can get caught on the notch. And finally, at this point, you can slide in the web cartridge and the magnet on the string will automatically snap to the back of the bullet. Well, thank you very much to my patrons.